Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A guy holding a microphone and no louder sound coming out. Let me tell you why that is. First of all, good morning. My name is Tom Hoffert with the Salem Chamber. It is wonderful to see a full room here today. And we'll talk contextually about why it's so important in a moment. But we are filming this for our members who are unable to be here and people in our community that may want to look back and see some of the cheat codes of how we can get into doing some work with the City of Salem in a number of their projects that are coming up as a result of the $300 million bond investment. In a moment, Alan Dannen will introduce the staff team here today, but I'd like to first recognize a few people. First of all, many of you are probably in this room because of communication of Katie Kostick in back. How many of you received a call from Katie and said, hey, let's come on down? Great, so a few of you. Katie, thank you for that. Katie brought years of service with AC and Company, formerly Arbuckle Caustic Design, and we're very fortunate to have Katie on our staff team, and she does wonderful work. Michelle Terzenbach in our membership department is back there. Wave, Michelle. If you are here and you're not a member of the Salem Chamber, we'd wish that you would consider that. We are the voice of economic security in this community, and we're the only organization responsible for making sure paychecks are being cut. So we take that responsibility very seriously. Today, Dan Johnson is going to be filming here. Dan's our skilled staff personnel. And then I'd also like to recognize we have Mike Herron, our president-elect. Mike, if you would wave to the group. Great communication line if you'd ever like to extend a conversation with Mike about what the Salem Chamber is doing. With that, Lena Prine, I'd like to have recognized. Lena is the one who set this meeting up and does wonderful work in the advocacy space. For our organization, it's very important that dollars are kept locally. And the City of Salem would like to see a number of those dollars stay local, but we have to do our part and in our different industries to make sure we bring value to the city, and they do have some limitations. And so oftentimes I get calls, Tom, why is the city allowed to do business outside of our area when we have companies right here that could do that work? The city actually cannot give local preference, and that's a state policy, and it has to do with the use of taxpayer dollars and some preferential things that could occur in to make sure essentially your dollars in the public are spent the right way. Conversely, we feel that we have all the companies in this room that could do the work of these projects that you're going to hear about, and to hear a little bit about today how to get involved in those projects. So we as an organization will continue to be pushing very strong in partnering with the city, keeping dollars with local companies like yours who are incredibly capable of doing the work that the city needs done right here in this community. So with that, I want to thank our city staff team for being here. Our organization is a very strong partnership with the City of Salem, and I look forward to them sharing their information. And to kick us off and introduce the staff team from the city that is here in the room today, I'm going to turn it over to Alan Dannen, who is our city engineer. Alan, thank you for bringing your team here.
Thanks, Tom. Really appreciate the introduction and appreciate all of y'all being here today. It's great to see y'all, and we're really happy to be here to present how to or just to give you an overview of contracting opportunities with the city and how y'all can get involved. Before I go too much further, I'll talk about who's in the room and kind of what our plan of attack is. This is like kind of an overwhelming scene here. I feel like at a press conference after a big game, or I should have had walk-up music or something. So bear with us as we go through that. I want to just start from my left. These are the folks that are here are the folks that are involved every day, and the ones that can really answer your questions during or after the meeting about specifics on some of the projects you're going to see. So starting on my left, James Winslow, Assistant City Engineer. He's in charge of the team in our engineering division who delivers all of our utility projects. Aaron Edelman, Engineering Program Manager. He's the key guy in our program for all the projects in the Safety and Livability Bond. And then to my right, Aaron Kimsey, newly promoted Assistant City Engineer in charge of our team that does building and facility work as well as parks. And then probably the most important person on our team to the right, Shauna Self, our contracts and procurement manager. She's the one who makes sure that we follow all the rules that Tom alluded to, and she is the one who can answer questions for you specifically about how to make sure you know everything you need to know about how to bid on our projects. So that's our team. We want today to, two more folks, not from the engineering team, but that I should introduce. So we've got Courtney Knox-Bush from the city manager's office, and Josh Eggleston, our chief financial officer, is here with us as well today. So our plan of attack for today is to review projects that are coming up in the 2022 Safety and Livability Bond. While we've got a captive audience, we're also going to talk about other projects in our capital program from the utility side of things that aren't funded by the bond, but since you're here, we thought we'd tell you about those. And then talk a little bit about how to track all these projects and what's coming up, and then answer any questions you might have either in the big group, and then we'll hang around for as long as folks want if they want to ask questions one-on-one or get contact information and like that. One last logistical item, there is a sign-in sheet going around. Please sign that and give us your email address at least if you'd like to get a copy of the slide deck so we can provide that to all of you. And there are some helpful website links at the very end of that you may want to have. So if you'd like to receive that, please make sure you sign the sign-in list. Okay, if that makes sense, Courtney, I'm supposed to make faces at you to go to the next slide. That worked. Okay, check. So what you see here is a pie chart, and maybe you can or can't see it. I'll describe it a little bit. Of the $300 million 2022 Safety and Livability Bond that was passed by the voters back in November of 2022. And it's got a number of components in it. We're going to focus today on kind of about 2/3 to 3/4 of the total, which $157 million in streets and sidewalks and transportation improvements, so a little over half the total. About $40 million is designated for seismic upgrade and other improvements at the Civic Center, and then $28 million and change for a series of upgrades in our parks. And those are projects where we'll be bidding those out to the contracting community and looking for or bidding public improvement contracts for that work. So that's what we want to focus on here today. If you have questions about the other sections, there's money there for fire engines and equipment, affordable housing, and technology and cybersecurity that we can talk about too. But the focus is really on the public improvement work that's in the bond. And then, like I mentioned, we'll hit CI other capital improvements after that. The program itself, as I mentioned, $300 million total over 10 years. And for those that don't know, the way that was structured was the city had other tax levy debt that was coming off of the books. And so we could levy at this exact same rate that everybody was already paying on their taxes and afford $300 million over the next 10 years without the tax rate going up. So that's how we're funding these improvements. That doesn't mean we get all the money right at once. We're issuing it in about 3 installments, roughly about $100 or $100 million a piece. And we will program all the projects in the portfolio over that 10 years to fit within that cash flow, if that makes sense. Go ahead and hit the next slide, Courtney. And I just want to show this slide to show you and kind of echo Tom's comments about maximizing local impact, the economic impact of this investment in our infrastructure. We know that's a goal of you all. We know that's a goal of our council. And so we're tracking local vendor participation right from the start. And so this is something that we'll be updating. We're sharing it with the committee that oversees our work that consists of city councilors and a couple of community members, including Mike Herron. And what we're doing is just tracking all the contracts we're awarding, whether it's design or construction, and where those contractors are from. And if they have a local presence, an office in Marion or Polk County, that's what we're showing as local participation. So you can see, maybe you can, if you're not in the back. Up to date, we've done about $6 million in awarded contracts, primarily for design and project management, and about 77% of that is to local outfits. And we want to make sure that we keep tracking that as we go all the way through the program and keep reporting on that, be transparent about it. Like Tom mentioned, there's rules we have to follow for procurement. And so one of the biggest things we can do is make sure everyone's aware of how that process works, and then just stay in communication with the local contracting community about what's coming so that you all know about it, can plan for it, and can understand what's coming up. And we want to make sure that it's on your radar to bid our work. That's one of the biggest things I think we can do to make sure that y'all can get involved. So that's our goal. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron, who's going to talk about the transportation projects in the portfolio.
Thank you, Alan. So this first slide is pretty much an overview of the total 157 million that are for the transportation work. So at the top, you see bike and ped improvements for just over 20 million. That consists of essentially 3 large projects. And then there's upgrades to urban streets. That's the big chunk at 92 million and change. There's 5 large projects there: Davis Road, Fisher Road, McGillcrest, which is a phase of that is already underway, Pringle, and Marine Drive. And then you jump into the pavement, R&R, which is rehabilitation of the asphalt on the existing roadways. We're doing a yearly, pretty much an annual project for that category for a total of almost 23 million. And then the next bucket is bridge rehabilitation. So there's 4 bridges that we're going to strengthen. These 4 bridges are all currently load restricted. So the project is essentially to remove that load restriction and get it back to normal.
Just a little louder voice. It's a little with the depth of the room. I
Okay.
apologize.
Thank you. Maybe stand. Okay. And then the last 2 on the list, those are the safer ped crossings and sidewalk infill and replacement. Those are 3 categories where the projects haven't been defined yet. You can see there's a little over 17 million there for those 3 categories. We're working through a process currently to identify projects from the public, and then those will all be scored, and from there the projects will be determined. So we're working through that process currently. So from there, I guess we'll jump into some of the individual projects. If you want to go to the next one. So this slide is kind of an overview of the ones we're going to touch on. So it's kind of a repeat of some of the slides you'll see. So these are the first 6 projects that are coming in the next couple years that are transportation related. I guess we'll just kind of jump through this because this is all on the next slide. So if you want to jump forward to the next one. So the first project that we're going to advertise from the transportation side of the bond is the 24 pavement rehabilitation. It's actually 2 different segments of roadway in Salem. It's South Commercial from Fabre out to the I-5 ramps. And then the second piece is the little diagram you can see there on Liberty Street from Trade to Mill. So this work will primarily consist of the rehabilitation of the pavement and the ADA curb ramps that touch that pavement work. Along with that comes some storm improvements and other minor things that go along with it, some other sidewalk work. There's also an enhanced ped crossing on the South Commercial segment. So that we're working towards advertising that in March. So it's coming March, so only a couple short months away. So this will be the first one that hits the streets for bidders. And the construction cost we're estimating it's tracking about $3 million. So next one. The next one here is Marine Drive. So if you can see the exhibit on the right-hand side of the screen, the exhibit shows the larger project of Marine Drive. So that was what was funded in the bond. But what you'll see that's circled in red at the top, that's kind of the first phase, and that will go to construction starting this summer as well. We're phasing that out to work with an adjacent development that's occurring there on Marine Drive. So again, that first phase we're looking at is about $1 million. It will go out probably later this year. We don't have an exact date nailed down yet, but it is coming soon. And that will include a water line, storm system, and then the normal street components, curb, sidewalk. This is an entirely new roadway that doesn't exist. It's not too often the city gets to do this on our own, but this is a new one that it'll parallel Wallace. Essentially, it connects to an existing piece up there on the north end, and it comes all the way down to 5th Avenue. Yeah, we can. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in at any time. Anything so far on what we've covered?
I have a question.
Yes.
I know that the city has its own concrete crews. When you look at this work, what portion of this bond work is going to be completed by them, and what portion is going to be bid out, and how is that done?
Essentially, everything you're seeing here today will be work that's bid out and not done by city crews. The next project up is 25 pavement R&R. So this is on Silverton Road from 17th all the way to Fisher. So a pretty long stretch of Silverton Road. And this project's coupled with a couple different pieces. It also includes reconstruction of the intersection at 17th and Silverton, right beside the State Fairgrounds. It includes a component that will CIPP an existing sanitary sewer main, which is a cured in place pipe. So it's rehabilitating existing pipe that's in there, along with some sidewalk enhancements, mainly along the north side, and 2 enhanced ped crossings. So this will be a 2-year construction project, with the first bidding opportunity occurring in 2025. And we're estimating the construction cost of this one at $12 million. This is a pretty decent sized project. It's currently under design, and we're working through the components to get it ready to bid. So. Next project is Davis Road. So the bond included improvements on Davis Road from Liberty to drawing a blank. What's the Skyline? Thank you. Liberty to Skyline. But again, this one's similar to the Marine Drive project we saw a couple slides ago. Will be done in phases. The first phase for this one will be a new traffic signal at Liberty Road, which will include fiber interconnect back towards Kubler and the ADA curb ramp improvements as well. So this one will go to construction in 2025, and we're estimating the construction cost of just the signal piece at $1.2 million. And the bridge rehabilitation project, wow, text is hard to read. I apologize for that. So again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a bridge strengthening to remove current load restrictions on these 4 bridges. The 4 bridges are Mission Street at Pringle, right beside the hospital, 15th Street at Mill Creek, which is in a residential neighborhood, 17th at Mill Creek, and Liberty Street at Mill Creek, which is just kind of across the way here by the new police station. So, this will go to bid in early 2025 as well, and the construction cost is estimated at $1.5 million.
Aaron, we had a question submitted from one of our members who is not in the room regarding the bridge specific project that hopefully you can shed a little insight. It's noted that there's a lot of unsheltered populations in these areas. Will this be quarantined prior to construction crews? How is the city handling that situation? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I would say we're still working through that. I don't know if it'll be totally quarantined, but we will have to work through that as we get closer to construction and make sure the area is open for the contractor to be able to get in there and do the work.
So the burden of risk and any with the unsheltered will be the city managing as opposed to the contractor.
I think the answer to that would be yes. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
It's a very real question.
I mean, we will work through the early stage, and then I think the contractor will fence it when they get there to help secure the site.
And they're permitted to do so and the like. Okay.
All right. Any other questions on this one? No? All right. We have a couple more. Yeah. So McGillcrest Street. This one, as a lot of you have maybe already seen, is already under construction of phase 1 at 22nd. So this project has federal funding in it as well. So the bond piece of it is supplementing the overall McGillcrest project, which is 3 phases, and it extends from 12th Street all the way to 25th. The phase 2 and 3, which are currently in design, is kind of what we're highlighting here because they're the future phases that will have bidding opportunities. Phase 2 is slated to go to construction in 2025 at a price tag of about $8 million. And phase 3 is a 2-year season, 2026 through 2027, and its price tag is about $16 million. Phase 2 will be the piece to the east of where they're currently working, so essentially from the intersection of 22nd back to 25th, and phase 3 will be the opposite side, going from 22nd to 12th Street. So this is another pretty big one. Any questions on this one?
What took so long to get this done?
I think it was securing those federal dollars. So. Yeah. All right. Again, sorry about the text. Hard to read here. So this is the safer ped crossings category, which, as I mentioned earlier, does not have the projects defined yet. You can see the text that is on there. We're looking to construction of the first projects in kind of a phased approach, 27, 29, and 31. And we're hoping we can couple a couple different locations together for each one. The total budget for this category is $3.5 million. And currently the city has a website. I don't know if do we have a link on this one? I don't think we do, but there's a website you can go to on the city website and input, suggested locations where the public thinks there should be a future crossing, and that'll go into the queue and get scored and looked at with all the rest of the locations. So. All right, I think this might be my last one. So this is kind of a summary. So again, on the pavement R&R, we got an annual package for the next 5 years. They kind of range from $3 million to $5 million each. Some of those projects will include more than the pavement rehabilitation. It'll include some utility components, either water lines or sanitary sewer work. And then on the far corner on the bottom, the sidewalk infill and replacement. Again, those are the other categories within the bond where the locations are still being determined and scored. Be a similar approach to the safer crossings, where it'll be phased in multiple years with multiple locations. And the total budget for these two categories are just shy of $15 million. All right, with that, I think, Aaron, is this yours? Yeah. All right, Aaron Kimsey.
I'll stand up. Thank you. So my role on the bond projects is to oversee the parks projects, which amounts to just I think it's just over 28 million actually. And so this is kind of a summary of those projects that are going to be included with the bond. So we have about 6 million for playground equipment replacement. This is essentially existing playgrounds that have existing playground equipment that are in poor condition or at risk to cause harm or injury. So those structures will be replaced with this project. Restrooms, we have several parks around town that are going to be receiving new restrooms. That's going to amount to about $5 million. Athletic courts, this is a project that's actually currently in design right now. I believe there's 5 parks that have existing athletic courts, tennis, pickleball, or multi-use. And those will see either a total rehab of the existing pad or some type of overlay or reconstruction of that pad. That amounts to about $4 million. Paths and trails rehabilitation. This is similar to the transportation sidewalk fund. It's basically a bucket of money totaling $4 million that's going to go to rehabbing and repairing paths throughout the city. And these are all existing paths. We aren't going to be building any new paths with this. It's existing concrete, existing asphalt paths. Sports fields upgrades. There are several parks. Gear is one of them, actually, and I'll get into more specifics on that one. And then McKay is the other one that I'm thinking of also. So these are existing fields, softball, baseball, soccer, that are draining poorly or need rehab so that they can be used more throughout the year. Dog parks, we've got two playground or two parks that are going to be receiving new dog parks, and shelters. So we've got again a variety of parks that are going to be receiving new park shelters. And then lastly, the Minto Brown parking resurfacing project. This actually is on the streets right now. It's been advertised last week and scheduled to open bids February 20th, if I have my date right. And so just to clarify, all of the costs that you see up there are essentially budget numbers, with the exception of Minto Brown parking resurfacing. Now that $1 million is our essentially our estimate for what we think that's going to cost. So hopefully bids will come in just under that. Next slide. We're missing a picture. That's weird. Okay, so again, this is the there's supposed to be a picture of the of Minto Brown there. So use your imagination. Go back. Okay, so as I said before, this consists of two parking lot rehabs in Minto Brown. So we got parking lot 2, which is the dog park lot. It's currently gravel. It's in poor shape. We go in there on a fairly regular basis to try to rehab it and get it so that it's usable by folks without bottoming out their vehicle. And then parking lot 3, which is the large lot at the very end of Minto Brown Road, that'll receive a rehab on the existing surface and then an expansion of the gravel surface that's right there as well. So as I mentioned, it's out to bid on the streets. I'm taking calls for questions. The goal would be to construct that this summer, kind of, if we can, start early this spring if weather permits. I feel like we've had enough rain for the winter, so maybe we'll have a nice warm spring or dry spring. And then obviously, that one, this has some challenges with all the activity that happens at Minto. So we'll be working with the Parks Department to try to minimize those impacts. And feel free to interject questions if you have any along the way. Next slide. So these are some of our upcoming park projects. As I mentioned, the athletic court improvements, it's currently in design. And because there's 5 courts, we're going to phase those out into phase 1, phase 2. We're going to be doing 2 this summer. So that'll actually be going out to bid here late spring. And then the final 3 will be in 2025. Again, just it's a variety of either rehab, reconstruct, or overlay on those courts. Gear Park, as I mentioned, we actually have a non-bond funded project at Gear, which is the skate park, and it is currently also out for advertisement. We are using an alternate delivery method for that project of design build. And so the goal would be to select a design build team this spring and begin design this summer so that we can start construction in 2025. It's a specialized type of construction and design, so we wanted to get a good team on board for that. That's why we are using that method. To go along with that, at Gear, there's a bond improvement project, which includes a shelter, sports fields, and a dog park. So just to go back a little bit, I showed you the summary of all the different categories. What we've done is package these together. So where we have a park, for example, like Gear, that's getting a new shelter, rehab, sports fields, and a dog park, made a lot of sense for us to package those together. So that'll be one project, at a park. The bathrooms, for example, are kind of a scattering throughout the city. And so we're probably going to package a bathroom project that's going to hit major parks throughout the town. So similarly, the bond improvement for Gear, we are going to be starting design here shortly, and with the goal to construct in 2025, so that we impact the park kind of all at once, and rather than going back and impacting it for multiple years. McKay Park is the next one that's going to be starting design soon. And then lastly on this list is playgrounds. We have 10 playgrounds that are going to be rehabbed throughout the length of the bond. And so we're going to be kind of tackling those a few at a time over the next 10 years. So the first ones to come up are Livingston and Morningside. And for those, just so you guys are aware, we go out and get proposals from companies that specialize in playground equipment, and they pretty much provide a purchase and install price. But the work to get the site ready for that installation would be done by a contractor. So think about path work, think about potential drainage issues. If Parks decides they want a drinking fountain, or maybe there's a fountain in the vicinity that needs to be repaired. So that kind of ancillary work around the playground structure could be work that we do with the general contractor. Next slide. That's coming. Okay. Yeah.
Why is that? Why doesn't the general contractor go out to bid from companies that you work with, right? Is there a liability there or something?
That's a good question. I may have to come back and follow up with that with Parks, or talk to Parks and get back to you. I do know that they have a list of preferred vendors that they use, and I'm not as this is my first kind of dive into Parks projects. Do you know?
I think they have to be certified to be able to install that playground structure.
Okay, so it's a certification, and it might be therefore it might be a liability issue. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question, not totally connected, but when it comes to the playground equipment, is there somewhere that we can go to see what kind of accessibility is going to be there, and if it's going to have access for different disabled or able buildings?
I'm getting a nod back here behind Trevor.
Yeah, I'm Trevor Smith. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Salem for the Public Works Department. And yeah, you can talk to Rob Romanek, and we can connect you if you'd like to learn more about the park features. Typically, they do public outreach on all the available, park features that they want to include, and it's usually like 3 or 4 options. And there, some have more slides, some have more swings, some have more, whatever. And after the public chooses that, then you can, see those options, and you can see which one was selected for the final time.
Yeah, just to go along with that, we want to make sure that we put back structures and equipment that's going to be used. And so if there's an existing structure or playground that is not being used because it's not fit for that neighborhood, then we'll get that feedback from the neighborhood, and we might look at putting something different in that's more suitable. So, all right, so this is one of the big ones here, Civic Center improvements. We are, if you didn't know, the Civic Center would have a hard time standing if we encounter a Cascadia type event. And so similar to the library project, we are applying for a seismic retrofit of the entire building, which includes council chambers and the parking structure to the north. And so just kind of minimum improvements would be the seismic retrofit, as I mentioned, new roof, new windows, and Peace Plaza improvements. There's also going to be, a wide variety of, while the building is torn down and getting built back up, there will be other improvements as well, but these kind of highlight some of the major ones. We are slated to start design this summer, and this is also going to be a design build delivery project. We anticipate advertising this actually next week. And so looking forward to receiving proposals from qualified design build teams that are used to doing this type of work. We've had great success with that delivery method over the years with police and the library project and our new public works building. So I'm looking forward to that. That one, we have a pretty aggressive schedule, but the hope is to be able to start construction in July of 2025. Yeah, any questions? That's a big one. Okay. Just to recap on, or just to follow up on that one. So we're doing the design build method, the alternate delivery method. But what we've found successful for all those projects that we've delivered with that method is all of the subcontractor work is competitively bid. And so we work with the design build team to really reach out and really we want to get good feedback or good interest from the subcontractor community. So things like MEP, windows, electrical systems, all those things we really want to get folks on board that are in the community. So although you may not have experience with design build and being a part of that kind of GC or design team, there's a lot of opportunities to be a part of the project at a subcontractor level. So, okay, that's it for me.
All right, welcome. My name is James Winslow, and good to be here. New faces have come in the room, so if the clipboard hasn't gotten to you, just throw your hand up, and we'll get the clipboard for the sign-in. And as our city engineer, Alan Dannen, said, the slides will be available by email on that. Just a show of hands real quick. How many GCs in the room? Okay, good. How many architectural, engineering, surveyor type firms? Okay, good. How about subcontractors, main subcontractors? Okay, good. How about support other types of industry? How you classify yourself? Right here, Lyle. I'll single you out. That's okay. Get out there. Great. Well, that's good. There's a lot of type of opportunities here in our capital program, in the bond program, and my job and role in PMT1 is utilities and facilities, water, stormwater, sewer, both Guerin Island and Willow Lake, as well as in the right-of-way. And so I'll highlight some of the capital improvement projects that we have coming up in those three categories over the next 5 years. So the next slide, please, Courtney. Water. Crestview water line is going out to bid this spring. It's about a $1.5 million, $1.4 million project in the Crestview area. Some future projects. We have Ewald water line replacement looking to construct in 2026. Again, about 1.2 million. Fairmount Reservoir, which is one of the reservoirs shown right there in the picture. Seismic upgrades, again, anticipated going out to construction in 2026, and about $5 million estimate for construction. And then you'll see this on a couple slides, but R&R, various waterline R&R projects, construction between 24 and 26. We go through a process of prioritization. So our operations team, our water, our sewer, our stormwater, go through their projects every year. They prioritize those, and then whichever has the highest priority comes out of the R&R program and gets identified in our capital program. So you may not see these projects in our capital budget if you look at it online. They're all kind of in that catch-all R&R category in that budget line item in our 5-year capital improvement program. But every year we bring those out, and then we work on the design and then advertise those. So again, don't be surprised if you all of a sudden, well, we didn't talk about that project. We didn't hear about that one. There's a bunch of them that are listed and in that catch-all, and they'll just come out every year. So just be looking for those. Rehab and replacement. What's that? What'd you think? Relaxation? No, rehab and replacement, yeah. In the wastewater program, we have our Willow Lake digester rehabilitation. We have a number of equipment out there, but primary digesters 1 and 2 right now that are going to have recoating on the inside, maybe some roof repairs. There might be a mixer in there. That's going to be an alternative delivery project, similar to what Aaron was mentioning on the Civic Center. This one will probably be a CMGC, general contractor, GC contractor. I just botched that. Construction manager. Thank you. Type format, similar alternative delivery. We get the contractor and the design team working together collaboratively. It's just a slightly different structure, contracting method than progressive design build or design build. So look for that to be advertised coming up this spring. Some future projects, Ferry Pump Station. If you guys are familiar with Ferry Street right down there by Commercial, we're relocating our pump station to a small triangular portion and relocating a drain line, emergency overflow if needed, through down Ferry Street and Commercial. Again, 2026, estimated about to be $3 million. And then various sewer R&R projects that will be coming out over the next number of years out of that program. Total budget for those is about $2.3 million. That's okay. That's okay. Stormwater. We do have Shelton Ditch coming up. The first let on that or release on that will be for the demolition of the house. We did purchase the property or one of the parcels in the areas that need some rock armoring in Shelton Ditch. That house will need to be demoed, and then that slope will be laid back, some of the trees being removed. So that's one of the first phase 1 components of that, with additional work either this year or next year down by Ford Street. But look for that to come out here in April, May. And then again, we have future storm drain projects, stormwater projects coming out between 24 and 26, around 1.2 million over those couple of years. Next slide. We took out a slide, but we do have a couple projects. You'll probably hear about these, so I just want to throw them out there. We have a grant that we put in for NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration grant, about $25 million ask for Guerin Island. There's a couple dams up there, Bennett Dam Complex, upper and lower, collaboration with the Santiam Water Control District. When we land that grant, that'll be going out as an alternative delivery as well, probably progressive design build. We are putting in for another grant called BRIC, Building Resilience Infrastructure. I forget the C. What's that? In communities. Thank you, Courtney. Again, that'll be about $13 million ask. That's going in this next week. When we hear on, again, that one, we'll get that to look for those opportunities. Those will be sizable projects out at our Guerin Island facility. And of course, we have a number of projects coming up in the future for Willow Lake that are going to be in design. Those will take a couple of years. Some of the clarifiers and some of the other digesters, but look for those in 27, 28 for construction. I just didn't want to highlight them here because they're just going to be out of ways in terms of when they're going to hit the construction field. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Good morning. So where we advertise all of our bids is on Oregon Buys, which is through the state of Oregon. And it not only has the state or the city contracts, but some of the state, other counties, cities throughout Oregon advertise on there. And also we do have smaller projects where over 5,000, the different departments get bids for those. So if you want to get notified of any of those opportunities, if you want to give me your business card, or I'll give you my business card and I can connect you to the different people that would handle those. But also I do have a list with me of all the annual contracts we're going to be rebidding this year, which include anything from gravel to engineering services to interpretation services, all of those, translation, we have, will be going out to bid on. So if you'd like that list, I have that available also. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're standing up now. I'm going to resist the urge to go karaoke on you guys. Just to wrap up, one, thank you all again for being here. Really appreciate the interest and you all being here today. I want to thank our partners at the Chamber, Mike, Tom, Lena, Dan. Thank you so much for hosting and setting this up. We really want this to be the start of a conversation with you all and keep following up on the work as it's coming out. So please give us feedback on if this was valuable, the format, what information we missed that would be useful to you so that we can fine tune our approach. And we'll be going back out here and at other groups to keep talking about what's happening. So love to hear your suggestions on how we can do that as effectively as possible. The last things I wanted to point out were, and you'll get this on the slide if you signed up for the email, is you can track online too. So at cityofsalem.net, we have interactive project maps, both for the bond program and the utility program, actually the whole capital improvement program for the city. And you can find all of the materials related to the bond. Our oversight committee meetings are all recorded and streamed live, so you can find all that information there if you're interested. And then the last thing I just encourage you all to do is please make contact with us. These are the folks that are making this happen, and they're managing the projects or supervising the folks who manage the projects. So please make connections with them and ask questions, and let's work together to make sure that you all know everything you need to know about these projects. Be happy to take questions from the larger group, and then when those are done, we'll hang around to answer questions one-on-one. Go ahead.
So I'm Jessica with Anderson Shirley Architects. I know in the larger bond, there was also some other potential big projects I think coming through in the future. Will there be other opportunities for design services other than specific projects? And I mentioned some affordable housing, I think the library, fire stations, that sort of thing, and when you think that those will be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, great question. I think the affordable housing piece may come sooner than later, and it really kind of depends on opportunities as they come up, and a lot of different moving parts that come into pulling one of those projects together. So I couldn't tell you we've got it scheduled here and there. It's really, we've got those funds set aside for when opportunities come up, and as soon as we know, we'll start talking about it for sure. With the fire stations, I think the plan right now is to acquire property for those future fire stations, but we're kind of holding on construction until we sort of have a better feel for budgetary purposes, operational budgets, what our fire station funding and staffing is going to look like before we build new stations. So again, those are probably a little further out too. And once we clarify that situation and know when it makes sense to build new stations, we'll definitely be talking about it in forums like these. So sorry, I don't have a specific answer for you, but we're a ways out probably in both cases.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions?
Yeah, really appreciate the attention on tracking where the dollars and the contract dollars are going to the businesses and industry partners. Will you have your project managers at the city also be tracking where the dollars are spread with the subcontracts that come through those larger contracts? Because that's where a big portion of the opportunity is in this room.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. I will repeat it. They're all scolding me up here. So the question was, will we also be tracking subcontracts and where those dollars go? And the answer is yes. Thanks for the question, Katie. And I wanted to mention that with the Civic Center project in particular, folks that are interested in subcontracting there, there'll definitely be more events specific to that project as we get a little bit of design going and understand the scope a little bit more, and then we'll be out talking to you all about that project in specific. But back to the general question of tracking subcontracts, that's what we do, and we will post that information just like we have here. The other thing that we've done is gone even one layer deeper and tracked by certified payroll, the labor that's working on the project and where those folks live and where that economic impact is happening too. So sometimes Portland or other out of area companies have a lot of local labor that wind up working on our projects. So we try to track that as well. Other questions?
I have a question. Are there going to be any COVID requirement for participation in any of these projects?
Yeah, take that one, Sean.
For COVID.
We currently don't have a COVID requirement. We're looking into potentially adding that in for smaller projects. So we're currently looking at how that will go. We have to get that through the process, and then we'll start utilizing the office, the Business Oregon office to utilize that list. But we currently put everything on Oregon Buys, which does in turn allow for those potential bidders to see that.
And I'll just add to that, with our bigger projects, like just recently we finished the new operations building out at our shops complex. We've added goals for co-bid contracting and worked hard to engage in that area. So I think on that project we were around 11% subcontracted to co-bid contractors. What else?
Don't depart this room with a question you wanted to ask. This is a great time to do it. If you have the question, somebody else likely does as well.
I have a question. So with Oregon Buys, we've noticed, at least at our level, that we've struggled a little bit with it. We actually ended up getting the project for Salem Public Works, not specifically through Oregon Buys, but because one of the project managers contacted us directly to let us know to go look at it. And we've definitely tried to utilize, adding different keywords and different things so that, the stuff kind of pops up. But is there anybody that you guys know that actually knows a little bit more that might be able to give us, a little bit of pointers on how to better access it?
I can definitely, if you give me your information, I'll get you a hold of. Her name's Kelly Molnar, and she's with the state, and she does all of the training for Oregon Buys. So I know that she would be happy to help you.
That'd be beneficial to other people in this room, learning that ecosystem a little healthier. I see some nods. Okay, our organization will take on connecting Shauna with you, and if not in person, maybe a Zoom interview or something that could give maybe some contextual hints on how to navigate a little more successfully and get information that each of you need. Yes, Lena is pointing. If you have not signed a sign-in sheet, it's extremely important that you do. So she's going to be in the hallway. Please just take a brief moment to sign that.
You said you're going to email us the slideshow?
Yes.
That OR Vice contact information that we do.
Sure.
Please.
Do that. I see Courtney writing notes. Okay. Any last questions for our city panelists? Yes, sir.
I have a quick question on the Civic Center. I noticed a lot of more technical stuff, roof, windows, seismic. When you remodeled and fixed up the library, there was a lot more involved with that. There was programmatic rethinking of how things worked on the inside of the building, interior design, aesthetic improvements, bringing in more vegetation and integrated landscaping. The Civic Center has a lot of opportunity for that. It's sort of integral to the idea of the brutalist style. And I think as a culture, we're coming back around to recognizing at least the historical importance of brutalism, if not the aesthetic value. Some of us do. What is there in that budget for that kind of improvement?
Okay, excellent question. Did everybody hear that? Do I need to repeat it? I should repeat it. Okay, I'm gonna do both. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, so the question is, we're all friends here. We're all friends. So yeah, what with besides the items that were listed on that slide, what other elements were going to be included with the civic improvement project related to programming and just general feel and look of the structure. And so we've done some preliminary design work actually over the last 6 to 9 months, looking at what we can do kind of on a campus level because it is the civic campus. And so while we've done improvements to the library, now we're looking at improvements to the civic building itself. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, we have a campus that is inviting, that people know where it's at. That we've heard a lot of folks say, I drive by the Civic, don't even know that I'm driving by it because there's very little signage. It's just it's been there a long time and people kind of forget that it's there. So to your point of programming, we have looked at how do we restructure the space? Does it make sense to have, the different services on the different floors that they are today? Or maybe it makes sense to have, for example, customer-facing services on the first floor. We really want to look at providing a new building that is user-friendly, so when people show up, they know where to go and they're not confused. So as part of that pre-design report, we've looked at things like that. How do we create a front entrance per se that we don't currently have right now? It's pretty much you can come from all different angles and sides. And so creating kind of that front door, if you will, creating customer service on the first floor, and then creating a more safe and secure space. So there's kind of nooks and crannies and some dark areas that are there today. We want to try to improve those and make the space more welcoming. I was going to say, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, okay, those are both good. So I'll tackle Courtney's. Her comment was what we might get versus what we want to get. So obviously we have a fixed fund for this project, and so we, through the pre-design report that we've developed over the last few months, we've prioritized the list of things that we would like to do. And so obviously first and foremost is the seismic rehab and the roof and the windows, those kinds of things. But we also want, like I said, want to create a safe and secure space. And ultimately we also would love to provide kind of a 21st century workspace for the staff that are there. And so we may not be able to afford all those things. So we're going to kind of work down the list. That's the beauty of the design build method. We can start looking at and working with the contractor and designer to look at those pots of money and see how we can best use those funds. For the library, we were able to do much more than we thought we could for a lot of different reasons. One, prices were a lot lower than they are today. So we had that advantage, and we hit it right as COVID was starting. So we didn't have those escalation costs and any of that COVID related impact that we're seeing today, or we're still recovering from. But through the process, we were able to, again, look at, okay, we have to do these things that we promised to the voters as part of the bond. We also know that you want to be able to walk in as a customer and see a renewed space and like actually feel that $40 million was spent worthwhile, and that you're going to see those improvements. And so trying to be able to accomplish those things is certainly the key. I remember what I was going to say. For the library and as it is today, the Civic is on the historic register. And so for the library, it wasn't at the time, but we knew we were going to be looking to get it on the list. And so we, as part of the design, we were very considerate about how we were going to make these improvements so that they fall in line with the historic feel and look of the structure, but also provide a space that's new and improved. And so now that we are on the historic registry, on the list, we'll be doing the same thing. So we'll be looking at trying to mirror improvements that that kind of, like, again, match the brutalistic style, but also kind of lean into trying to soften the space as well, so it's not so hard and unwelcoming. So any other questions on that? Yeah.
Not related to that, but what is the requirement for permitting, specifically like land use approval? Are these projects exempt?
No, they're not exempt, unfortunately. I guess yeah. It's like, don't wait. So it's going to depend on the project. For any project that, like, for parks, kind of not in right-of-way projects, they're going to have their own land use application requirements, their own building and safety permitting requirements that could change. For like the transportation projects that are in the right-of-way, they're going to have your typical closure permits, work in the right-of-way permits, sidewalk closures, those kinds of things. So does that help you answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
For your CMGC projects, I know once that gets awarded to that GC, they reach out to the network of subs and they post it on however they post it. But is it an option to have that GC also post it on Oregon Pies as well, so it goes out publicly so the greater array of subs can see that project?
Do you have an answer to that?
I think that could be a very good option to have them put it on there. We just have to see how it would work with the company being, a private versus where typically we have, local governments or state agencies use it. So that might be a question that either maybe the packet comes through the city and we post it on behalf of them also to allow more exposure.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, thanks for that suggestion. We'll definitely look into that and other ways like communication like this to make sure that word gets out. If for some reason we can't use Oregon Buys, we'll work really hard to make sure the word gets out as far as we can.
Yes, sir.
Quick question regarding the Oregon Buys. You guys do these single source awards similar to the federal side. Are they required through your RFP to use subs that are local, or once they've secured that general contract, are they free to use whoever they want? again, piggybacking off this question, if there's no requirement to use local assets or to do a competitive bid, if they have the right to use whatever subs they want, can you shed light on how that works?
I think a portion of the work is required to be bid out versus self-performed.
Yeah, and just to make sure, I think everyone heard the question, but the question was how do the subcontracts get awarded for these alternate contract delivery methods, and the city has latitude in how we set up those contracts, so we can say you need to publicly bid all these subcontracting opportunities. We have the ability to say we want all this work to be competitively bid. There may be some specialty areas where it makes sense to bring somebody in on the design side, and so we'd still go through a competitive process to select those partners. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so it'll say in the RFP what percent or what is going to be required. So when we read the RFP, knowing who's going to win that, we can then know what percentage of that work within that specific proposal that they made is going to be put out for bid versus they can choose whoever they want.
Yes, and I guess what I'll tell you is we're gonna put out as much of it as we can for public bid.
I'd share a little alternative look at that. The pressure that an organization like ours would wish to partner yet pressure the city on is if you intend to come out in the future for another bond and you show abysmal use of the funds within your own community, how do you expect us as residents to want to vote for that again? So for me, from the chamber standpoint, I am very encouraging to our staff members, our city councilors and policy people that we need to invest in this community to create security and also create belief that we are truly feeding our own ecosystem. And if, as a public, if we were to see that 50% of this business is outside our community, I'm going to be really looking at your next bond proposal a lot differently than if I see 84% in this city. So us as residents need to apply a little bit of friendly pressure to keep these dollars right here in this community. It builds our ecosystem, it builds each of your businesses, and it keeps these dollars truly localized.
Sure. So the question was, our past performance in this area. And I think what I would share is, especially related to alternate contracting, we've worked hard in this area, starting with my involvement from the police station, the library project, the shops building project that I just mentioned, and some others, to again make sure we maximize local subcontracting awareness and participation. And we've had good partnership with our generals while we're doing that. And I think we've gotten better and better with each project. That shops building project that we just finished that I mentioned, we had like 65%, if I'm remembering the number correctly, of all that subcontracting that went local.
Not to continue to beat this up, but the police station, for example, that wasn't on the local general contractor. They may have an office in Portland, but they're from the Midwest, and that is ongoing, right? Just because you have an office in Portland doesn't mean you're local, right? So I think, to Tom's point, we need to really track this, right? So that we can maybe get our lobbyists to put something in the legislation to change the rules in the state of Oregon, right? After this 10 years, it's a long time, but we need to really track where those dollars are being spent, where the contractors are coming from. Because the police station is a prime example that you just used. If you really look into that, I think that we were touting, the city was touting like 80% or something was general contractor. But you really start to look into that, it was like, well, they have an office in Portland, but it might just be a PO box. That doesn't count, right?
Appreciate the comment, and I just want to clarify that we're not counting Portland firms as local. We're counting folks.
And the data that I've seen in the past, they were.
Yeah, we're not now, and it's Marion and Polk County is what we're considering local on the figures that I showed there, and we want to track that and share that. And I guess I just also wanted to add is I left out a couple of projects that we've done alternate at our Guerin Island facility that were done by a local contractor, Sladen out of Staten, I believe they are. Yeah. So there are folks in the local area that play in that sandbox.
Any last questions? Would you join me in thanking our city staff for their I want to thank each of you for spending your time today. This is a facility built and funded by our membership. Again, if you're not a member, Michelle, give a big wave and back. She'd love to talk to you about membership in the Salem Chamber. This is just one of the areas that we do to connect our business members with opportunities in this community. We hope your business is flourishing. Congratulations for being here, and let's make sure you get a bunch of this business. Thank you all for being here today.